Hello, welcome to Telecom Weekly, your flagship program on telecom and ICT. Telecom Weekly aims at educating, informing and updating you with the latest trends, issues, news and developments in the telecom and ICT sectors, particularly in Nigeria. Telecom Weekly is sponsored by the telecom regulator, the Nigerian Communications Commission, NCC. At NCC, we protect and promote the interests of consumers against unfair practices. Once again, welcome. I am your host, Oluwatobi Eniton. In this episode, Nigeria's telecom sector attracts an investment of over $75 billion, declares Professor Umar Garba Dambata, the Executive Vice Chairman and Chief Executive Officer of NCC. MTN Group visits NCC headquarters, hails policy focus of the Commission. We will also bring you a story on the role telecom consumers play in the protection of telecom infrastructure. These are the stories we'll be featuring in today's episode of Telecom Weekly. Please stay with us.
On NCC Telecom Weekly, we bring you innovations, trends, policies, and stakeholders redefining all sectors of our economy today. Here, you will see the actors, policymakers, and creativity that will shape your mind and businesses for growth in line with today's reality. Join us every Monday on NTA Network, 10 p.m., and every Friday on Radio Nigeria FRCN Network, 8 p.m. NCC, Connecting Nigeria.
For today, we begin with the gains recorded in the growth of the telecom sector in Nigeria. Published figures show the sector has now attracted an investment profile comprising foreign direct investment (FDI) and local investment worth $75.6 billion as of 2021 from a mere $38 billion in 2015. This was disclosed at a special interactive session that the Executive Vice Chairman of NCC, Professor Umar Garba Dambata, held with media executives in Lagos.
The need to continuously increase broadband penetration and help fast-track the overall economic development of Nigeria through regulatory efforts of the Nigerian Communications Commission is yielding positive results. Professor Umar Garba Dambata, the Executive Vice Chairman and Chief Executive Officer of the NCC, at a breakfast roundtable, key media executives, editors and senior reporters stated that investment profile in Nigeria's telecommunications sector, including foreign direct investment (FDI), was $76.6 billion in 2021. This figure was arrived at by using financial data from service providers and had been verified by the Central Bank of Nigeria and the National Bureau of Statistics. Professor Umar Garba Dambata stated that it has been determined by the UN and ITU that broadband is key to accelerating national development in different sectors such as health and education, and thus it is critical that NCC continues its concerted effort in providing and optimizing access to affordable broadband in Nigeria.
The International Telecommunications Union said, in the 21st century, this is the century that we are now, any country wishing to develop socially and economically should embrace broadband or broadband infrastructure, should have broadband infrastructure in place. And they went further to say, build broadband, what they say should be treated as basic infrastructure like energy or power infrastructure, water infrastructure, transportation infrastructure. The argument by the ITU is that broadband infrastructure should be treated as basic infrastructure. And they went on to say, build broadband infrastructure and everything else will fall into place.
The EVC also informed the gathering on the progress made by the Commission in achieving the targets set out in the Strategic Vision Plan 2015 to 2020 and the current Strategic Vision Implementation Plan 2021 to 2025, which has now been harmonized with the strategic management plan of the Commission to run from 2023 to 2025 as the Strategic Vision Plan (SVP). He further stated that this has contributed to the promotion of ICT innovation and in turn led to the growth of investment in the sector.
SVP2 was equally designed, articulated, designed, and unveiled by relying on provisions of the Nigerian National Broadband Plan for the years 2020 to 2025. And that one has the provision for attainment of broadband penetration of 70% by the year 2025. To also have internet speed of 25 megabits per second in urban areas, as well as 10 megabits per second in rural areas. There's another provision there to at least 90% of the population of the country. That's an ambitious plan. Okay? And I'm glad with the way and manner the government of President Tinubu has aligned with that plan and stated under the New Hope agenda document that they identify with this important provision of the National Broadband Plan 2, and they hope to witness the attainment of 70% broadband penetration by the year 2025 indeed.
Dambata provided detailed statistics posted by the sector, adding that telecoms contributed 12.94%, equivalent to 2.246 trillion naira, while the second quarter witnessed an all-time high gross domestic product contribution to Nigeria's economy, standing at 15% and valued at 2.593 trillion naira. Present at the event, which was held at the Colossus Hotel Ikeja, Lagos, were media executives, editor-in-chiefs, title editors and senior reporters. Also speaking at the event, Ruben Moka, the Director Public Affairs of the NCC, further stressed the importance of the strategic vision plan of the Commission and gave more details on how the plan has led the Commission to achieve its goals.
I think at this level we are all aware about the importance of telecom in all areas of development, in all areas of national activity, in all phases of human activity, economics and social. Telecommunications occupies a very central role. And the thing there is that this commission that is responsible for regulating the telecom industry understands the critical importance of telecom in national development. So all efforts are geared towards meeting those objectives of national development. And the capital incentive, therefore, requires a lot of huge capital. So when we talk about encouraging investment, it talks to the point of how critical it is to, sustain investment in the sector.
Telecom Weekly also engaged some of the media executives who responded to questions ranging from the assessment of the NCC's general performance since 2015 when Professor Umar Garuba Dambata took over the helms of affairs of the Commission.
I would say the regulator, they are doing very well. I commend the NCC under the leadership of Professor Umaru Dambata. They've done quite well, and from all that has been analyzed, they look at the 8-point agenda to a very large extent. I can score them over 85%. And then you look at the 5-point agenda too, even in that they have done well, even though we still have some years to go.
The growth in number of telecom operators have as well increased. Over the last 3-4 years, we've seen new entrants in the sector, new licensees. The country has also launched 5G networks, and virtual mobile network operators have as well been launched a license, which very soon, between now and the next 1 year, they will come up with their services. So you may likely see a bank or a financial services sector company coming up with a SIM card, and you see people rushing for it. So the market is open and broad for and inviting for all investors to come in.
NCC from inception has been performing exceptionally well. Talked about the tariff, the regulation, and almost all the pain points in the industry. NCC has done quite well. It has been doing very well concerning how it regulates the operators, how it facilitates talking points with the end users, the tariff, the USP, licensing for the MVNO and the MNOs. It's been very good.
In fulfillment of the facilitating strategic collaboration and partnership item of the harmonized NCC 5-point strategic vision plan 2023 to 2025, the Commission periodically engages strategic partners with a view to providing updates on its activities.
The Executive Vice Chairman, NCC, reiterates the resolve of the Commission towards providing quality framework for a sustainable telecom industry in Nigeria. He stated this when he received a delegation of the MTN Group in Abuja.
A high-powered delegation made up of top executives of the MTN Group recently paid a courtesy visit to the Nigerian Communications Commission to engage the telecom regulator on ways to further move the industry forward. The Executive Vice Chairman, CEO, Nigerian Communications Commission (NCC), Professor Umar Garuba Dambata, along with the Executive Commissioner, Technical Services, Engineer Bali Maska, the Executive Commissioner, Stakeholder Management, Adeleke Adeolu, and other management staff of the Commission received the visiting team at the NCC headquarters in Abuja. Carl Olutokun Toriola, CEO and MD MTN Nigeria, in his address, commended the leadership of the NCC for its effective regulation while assuring on the continued commitment of the company towards providing sustainability measures for the overall good of Nigerians.
We want to assure you of MTN's continued commitment to leading on the technology basis in this market. By the end of this year, we'll have over 2,000 5G sites. And we'll be far ahead of any African country in terms of the traffic we'll carry on 5G, enabling the development. We're always spectrum hungry because we carry almost 3 times the quantity of spectrum of data traffic per megahertz that our closest competitor carries. So you will always be seeing a few requests which are urgent for us to keep our quality of service.
On his part, Jonas Msebisi, Group Chairman, MTN, touched on the need to sustain investment in the industry.
Again, I want to thank you. I think I've only heard positive things about you and the relationship that you have built with MTN. I must also thank you for the good words you said about MTN in the meeting with the President. I think it was, you probably made our task easier. But that was a job well done because it actually laid a good basis for us to focus on what is strategic. But sometimes when you meet presidents, you don't want to be bogged down in detail.
Yes.
You help us do that better
taking care of the details.
Taking care of the detail.
Good.
While appreciating the visit by the MTN Group, the NCC's helmsman said the Commission always desired for operators to be compliant with regulations, particularly towards the provision of sustainable telecom industry in Nigeria.
Out of recognition that this is a sector that is really putting consumers, on the forefront of our regulations. The number of subscribers are well over 220 million. This is your biggest market in Africa. So you can imagine the farmer, who goes out every day to his farm to till the land. You find him using his, handset to make a call. So this is one service that cuts across all strata of society, the rich, the poor, the downtrodden, everybody, uses, telecommunication services. So it's really a regulation that exists in our, our subsidiary. It's a subsidiary regulation of the Commission.
The MTN delegation also included Raf Mupita, Group President and Chief Executive MTN, and Modupe Kadri, the company's Chief Financial Officer. The NCC's team that received the delegation comprised Mr. Ruben Moka, Director, Public Affairs, and Ms. Helen Obi, Director, Legal and Regulatory Services, amongst others. The visit by MTN Group is the second to the regulator by a major telecom player within the last month, as the Airtel Global founder and management of the company had recently paid a similar courtesy call to the NCC.
You're still onto your flagship program on Telecom and ICT, Telecom Weekly. We'll be back after this short break. Please don't go away.
Have you heard of the Nigerian Communications Commission NCC 622 toll-free number? Do you have any complaints about the services rendered by your service provider? Have you complained to your network provider? Are you dissatisfied with the way the complaint was handled? What are you waiting for? Call 622 NCC toll-free number. 622 is your last resort to complaint resolution. 622 is not available at weekends and public holidays. Take advantage of us so no one takes advantage of you.
The spate of vandalism of telecom's infrastructure remains on the rise in the country, and this has necessitated the need for concerted efforts in protecting them. Some of the operators put the rate at over 45%, almost on a yearly basis. What are the expectations from Nigerian citizens towards ensuring the protection of this critical infrastructure? Our next story tells us more.
Telecommunications infrastructures are important to the smooth operation of the telecom sector. These infrastructures are a rallying point for the economy, which has become dependent on the platform provided by telecommunications. Protection of these infrastructures from threats like vandalism and theft is a task for all key players, especially the telecom consumers, who are the most affected whenever they are destroyed. In 2022, the Nigerian Communications Commission (NCC) expressed concern that over 10,000 telecommunication infrastructures have been affected by vandalism and destruction in the last 5 years.
If, for instance, the BTS site close to your house is vandalized, the whole economic activity you can do is crippled. So it negatively affects economic activity, which depend on these infrastructures. Even for investors who would like to invest in Nigeria, when they hear the enormity, the number of vandalism of telecom infrastructure, they are worried, because it increases the cost of operations.
As part of measures to protect telecom infrastructure, the NCC had in 2017 signed a Memorandum of Understanding (MOU) with the Nigerian Security and Civil Defense Corps (NSCDC). The objectives of the MOU included the protection of telecommunication facilities in the country. The regulator has also been at the vanguard of advocacy against the menace of the destruction of the facilities, which includes theft of generators, batteries, and even fuel at base transceivers stations (BTS), as well as relentless fiber cuts by vandals, construction work, amongst others. The NCC has over time highlighted the importance of telecom infrastructure to national growth and has continuously advocated for community ownership of telecommunications infrastructure to prevent economic losses across the country.
The key emergency services are affected when this vandalization occurs. You may have challenge in the night, intruders in the night. You need to call the police. You can't do that. Emergency services, your house is under fire. You need to reach the fire service. You can't do that. You need an ambulance services. You can't do that. So it's important we really underscore a lot of all this. Even the speed of telecom penetration is affected, because with this vandalization, telcos end up spending more to build back what they had built before, and that cost, that money they would have used to even install telecom infrastructure to my village is affected. So in terms of service expansion and penetration down to the hinterlands are affected by so doing.
Some Nigerians speak about their roles as consumers when it comes to the protection of telecom infrastructure.
On network masts, I think they should be protected because they are a public infrastructure. Everybody needs to communicate, Even the place I'm going to right now, I just called someone, and it is aided by the use of that particular mast. And on how you can mitigate people actually stealing or vandalizing these masts. I think security should be a bit more tight.
When there's enough security, it can prevent them from having access to the masts. There will be enough network. There will be no interruption from anywhere.
Destroying telecommunication gadget in the name of stealing diesel or whatsoever as the case may be. The youth to develop the country. It is the youth that the country have hope for tomorrow, for continuity. But where the youth become thieves, robbers, we are finished.
The protection of these critical telecom infrastructures is the responsibility of all consumers, state, public and private institutions, to enable the provision of modern, universal, efficient, reliable, affordable and easily accessible communication services in Nigeria. And to carry out this duty efficiently, the Commission requires the support of all stakeholders towards the protection of telecom infrastructure, which are essentially physical and virtual assets designed for telecommunication networks that connect Nigeria and beyond.
The Nigerian Communications Commission (NCC) is the independent national regulatory authority for the telecommunications industry in Nigeria. Do you have any complaints about the services rendered by your service provider? Have you complaints to your network provider? Are you dissatisfied with the way the complaint was handled? Call 622. NCC toll-free number. Remember to lodge complaints with your service provider first. However, if you are unsatisfied about how your complaint is handled, call NCC on 622. You can also stop unsolicited calls and messages by sending STOP to 2442, irrespective of your service provider. Note, the National Emergency Number 112 is also available for you to use in case you are in any form of emergency or danger and require support. For more information, visit the NCC website at www.ncc.gov.ng or visit the consumer web portal at www.ncc.gov.ng/consumer. You can also follow and engage us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, and YouTube. Take advantage of us so no one takes advantage of you. NCC, connecting Nigeria.
That's the much we can take on this episode. Before we go, don't forget you can always be a part of this program by joining us via multiple social media platforms. For inquiries on this program, you can send a mail to telecomweekly@ncc.gov.ng. For further details on the activities of the Commission, visit www.ncc.gov.ng. Telecom Weekly is brought to you by the Nigerian Communications Commission, NCC. Until we come your way again next week, I am Oluwatobi Enitan, saying bye for now.